Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and welcome back to another Legacy versus Original comparison video. Today we'll be comparing the original versions of the three Skulkin generals as well as Garmadon to all of their Legacy versions that were released in 2019. So we'll start with the first of the Skulkin to ever be released, Knuckle. Knuckle's a weird case because honestly, I can't pick a favorite between the two. The original Knuckle is obviously more accurate to the show. He has the shoes, he has the original armor, he's got spikes on his head and the crack going down the back of his skull. That's really cool looking. But his facial expression really doesn't match his goofy personality in the show. He looks like just like a scary skeleton general, which if you've seen the show, that's not at all what he is. He's just a goofball. And I think Legacy Knuckle does a much better job of capturing that. He's got like the goofy smile they have in the show, and while he's got like the red eye and the eye patch, I think they did a lot better job here capturing his expression and his personality. I also feel like the new Knuckle is more Lego-like, using the original skeleton legs and using a head that's a lot smaller and a lot more in line with normal minifigures, while original Knuckle has this huge massive head, which kind of fits for him, but I don't love it. I also prefer new Knuckles' hair, even though it's less accurate. I feel like it's more Lego to have a mohawk piece rather than have these molded spikes, but I get the spikes. The spikes look fine. If they had like a Spikes hair piece to fit on him, he would be perfect. So between these two, I don't know. Like, it could really be either. I think I prefer Legacy Knuckle just because of his personality. I really like his personality in the show, and if I want to represent that, I would go to Legacy Knuckle, not original Knuckle. But if you prefer the original, I could see why here. Cruncha, however, I could not. There is nothing about original Cruncha that I prefer to Legacy Cruncha. Except for, I guess, the shoes, but every other bit of him is just so much better on the new version. First off, on the old version, this like molded helmet with like helmet printing just looks really weird. As with Knuckle, he's got this massive head, but like the molded, I don't know, the helmet should have been a detachable piece because molded helmet just looks wrong to me. The armor piece is cool, don't get me wrong, and I guess it is accurate to the show, but big scary armor piece doesn't match Crunch's personality, because just like Knuckle, he's this goofy comic relief character in the show, and this big scary armor doesn't really fit that. He's also got the gray belt in the original version. While I know he probably should have had that in the show, but there was an animation error in the show, and he's always had a red belt in the show, which is actually fixed in the Legacy version. I think this was just an excuse for them to reuse the Day of the Departed Skulkin torsos, but I mean, it works. It's more accurate to the show, and he's got the little skull emblem on it now, which is more detailed than the original, so yeah, I prefer the torso on the new Cruncha. But if you look at these guys' two faces, like, original Cruncha just looks sad, and he's got a monocle, and like, that's never how he looked in the show. This is how he looked in the show. He had the broken tooth, he had the two wide eyes, like, him and Knuckle were best buddies, and I think this really captures the personality. And with him and Knuckle together, they really represent like how they are in the show. And that issue with the molded helmet is fixed here. He actually has just a regular Lego Samurai helmet. And yes, is this one technically more accurate? Yeah, but this looks a lot more Lego-like. The head is much more in scale, and I far prefer this figure. Whiplash is a bit different than the other two. He's not a comic relief character in the show. He actually doesn't really appear in the show. I think he's only ever appeared in mini-movies and like in Cryptarium Prison. But he's not a goofy comic relief character. He is just like a regular skeleton general. And I have to say, I think I prefer the original here. The Legacy just feels really lame. He's just got Knuckles' torso, Cruncha's head, and then a hat. And unlike Knuckle and Cruncha, who had like their head features molded into their head, the original Whiplash actually has his hat removable. He's got a stud on the top of his head, and he's always been removable, and I think that's perfect. That's how all three of them should have been from the beginning. He's also got the white cloth, which is more accurate than the blue. Like, he never wore blue in the show, unlike Cruncha, who did actually wear red. And unlike Cruncha, the big armor piece actually does fit this guy really well. So yeah, I think the Legacy Whiplash is really disappointing. It's just reuses of parts. It's got Cruncha's face, and that's really lame to me. While I think the original Whiplash does have too big of a head, that's really my only complaint with it. Other than that, it's pretty perfect and represents the character really well. And then finally, here we have Garmadon. We have his two original versions, 2011 and 2012, and the new Legacy version. This Legacy version's been released with two variants, one with the middle piece and one without the middle piece, to have 4 arms versus 2 arms. But he's pretty much identical other than that. Unlike these two who have different helmets and different leg printings, the two versions of Legacy Garmadon are identical except for this middle piece, so I didn't bother bringing down the second version of him. And I have to say, I feel like Legacy Garmadon is nothing but an improvement. The only change, really, is that his helmet went from gunmetal gray to just pure black, but other than that, he's identical to his other two previous appearances, except just better. As you can see, the original two Garmadons had like this shiny face, which looks pretty cool in person, but it's like impossible to photograph in any way entire film. And while it's got a cool effect to it, I think the matte printing on the new Legacy version looks a lot better. His expression is also a lot more intense and really represents his personality in the show. I do like the belt on 2012 Garmadon, how one hangs down lower than the other, while this one, like, the belt's quite even. But still, they made the purple more vibrant on this one, which once again I think is an improvement. Like, the more vibrant purple really makes this figure pop a lot more and not just be like this monochrome, boring figure. I do like the helmet on original Garmadon, but because this is mostly supposed to be 2012 Garmadon, I get why they didn't go with that helmet, because this one's more accurate to this figure. And then here these three are with our upper piece and helmets removed, and you can really see how distinct, like, the new Garmadon's face is. He's got this super angry expression, like, it's so full of emotion, and I love it. While the originals had, like, a quite, like, neutral grimace, if that makes any sense. Like, he's angry clearly, but not nearly as angry and expressive as this figure is, and that, like, shiny printing really, like, makes it not stand out. Like, you can see how much more vibrant this is by just having the matte printing. And then turning these three around, you can see that neither of the originals have back printing, while the new Legacy version does have, like, shoulder blades and a belt wrapping around. So yeah, absolutely no contest here. Legacy Garmadon is so much better. He does nothing but improve upon the originals. The only change I'd make is I would make his helmet gunmetal gray, but that's really easy to do if you have the originals. Like, everything else is nothing but an improvement. But that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know which versions of these figures you guys think are best in the comments below. I know a lot of people don't like the Legacy Skulkin, and I'm sort of in the minority and loving them, so I'm curious to hear your opinion on that. If you enjoyed this video, please press like and subscribe if you're new. I do LEGO and Ninjago videos like this every single day, so if you subscribe, you'll be the first to see them. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.